that why you were here?
This is it. Don't get scared.
Well, hello and welcome back to a brand new Flick Pick live show. This is it. Don't get scared now. And there's so much to talk about. And yes, I will answer everything and anything, including your questions, very shortly. And there's a few things I want to cover first. And most importantly, this is the one I have to get out. Earlier today on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I read something from discussing film. And The Rock was quoted as saying, and this is in relation to all the complaints that have been in the zeitgeist the last week since Wicked has come out. The Rock was quoted in saying, "You've paid your hard-earned money for a ticket, and you've gone into a musical, and you're into it. Sing!" And I want to stop right there. And I first want to just collect my thoughts before I explode. Okay, that felt good. Here's what I need to say about this. Now, I did go see Wicked last week, and we'll talk about Wicked in just a few seconds. Surprise, surprise, I actually sort of enjoyed the movie, but we'll get to that in just 1 second. I'd almost go so far as to say, Wicked was a great time, and Gladiator 2 was the bane of my existence. But let's get back to Wicked. If you're at home, in your underwear, eating popcorn, watching a movie, sing your heart out. Go to the top of your house and sing if there's a full moon. I don't care if your neighbors call the cops. Small price to pay. But when you're in a movie theater, for me, etiquette takes priority over everything, okay? For me, the theater experience is almost cathartic. The theater is my church. This is where I go to feel good about myself. So I take it very seriously. And when other people come in there, mouth breathers, people with BO, people on their phones, people texting, stupid teenage girls with their squeaky high-pitched voices, laughing at everything, those things are like a cancer that slowly eats away at my being. And if you go see a musical in the theater, there's nothing wrong with maybe a slight hum, smiling, laughing, but do not sing out loud. And the other thing going on right now at Wicked, it's like a trend. People are proud to take pictures of the movie and record segments of the movie to share them to their 2 followers on TikTok because it's some weird small form of accreditation that makes them feel better about themselves. And they're not even monetizable views, so I don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's stupid. Don't do these things. And when it comes to The Rock saying to go to the theater and sing, I think The Rock is so disconnected from the rest of humanity. And I don't know about you, but when's the last time you saw The Rock in a movie theater just casually watching a film? No, that guy's at his billion-dollar mansion with his private screen watching movies alone in his underwear, and he's probably singing. And that's fine if you have a home theater. But if you go out in public, don't fucking sing. Please shut your fucking mouth. You can smile occasionally. I'll accept a laugh or two, but do not sing. And definitely do not take pictures of the movie. Ugh. You know what I've always had the urge to do? And it would be sort of hypocritical of me to do so, but I've always wanted to do it. I wanted to make a TikTok channel where I call out people with no etiquette in the theater. But then again, calling them out in the theater would cause such a disturbance where I'd sort of feel like a hypocrite. But for the sake of entertainment and internally, when I'm watching a movie and I see people on their phone or talking or texting or whatever, I've always just wanted to turn the light on my phone and run up in front of them in their face and just put my camera in their face. What are you doing? And then that would be the clip I post to my TikTok channel. It's called "Please Shut the Fuck Up When You're Watching a Movie." So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I thought that was interesting. What are your thoughts on texting, or your thoughts on The Rock telling you to go see Wicked and sing your heart out? I don't know. Anyway, that's all I had to say. And how are you guys doing? Welcome back to a brand new Flick Pick live show. Life is good. And with all that said, I'm going to make life that much better with a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. All right, let's dive into the questions here. And the first one comes from Max Neugenbauer, who says, I think Gladiator 2 is great, but not as great as the first one. However, you could tell the sharks and baboons were CGI. I don't feel like not only could you tell in Gladiator 2 the sharks and baboons and every other animal in that film look like a cartoon CGI character, it didn't even look like subtle CG. These look like the baboons in Gladiator 2 look like they were from an alien planet, and it looked like the same quality of CG you would get in a live action Lion King movie. There was nothing photorealistic about any of the animals or any of their movements, and the rhinos in Gladiator 2 did not walk around like rhinos. It felt like I was watching a comic book movie. I really despise Gladiator 2, and when it comes to the original, I truly think Gladiator is a masterpiece. I think it's timeless. In preparation to going to see Gladiator 2, I rewatched it, and I actually have a full-blown movie night over on the Flickpick channel. Check that out. I showed my wife Gladiator for the very first time, and I recorded the experience, and that was a cathartic experience. So if you haven't seen that video, it's over on the Flickpick channel. Please check it out. But when it comes to Gladiator 2, I thought as far as retreading every plot point that the original had, okay, they did that, but they didn't do it as good. It all felt really rushed and half-assed. And then they try to interject some other storylines with new characters that are barely fleshed out. You don't even get to know them. No one has a sense of humanity. You just have random clips of people doing things, but you don't really get to know them or care about them or their journey. So by the time we get to the destination, which just feels very abrupt at the end of Gladiator 2, you don't care. I just felt like that movie was so choppy and cut together, and I hated the color timing of the movie. Maybe it was just my screening, but that film looked 10 times more gloomy and depressing and desaturated compared to its predecessor, which was in fact shot on film. That's when Ridley Scott still, I feel, had a heartbeat and cared about his movies, and it has this glow. When you're in the Gladiator fight sequences in the first Gladiator, it takes its time, right? You sort of get acclimated to the environment. You care about Maximus. You know, you feel like there's a buildup and the tension keeps rising and rising. In the new Gladiator, if you're going to see it for big epic Gladiator fights, yeah, you get a few of them, but they just feel like they were so abrupt. In one scene, they're doing something, you blink, now they're in the Gladiator pit with big CGI rhinos, and then you have some action sequences or people flying around, and then it's over. And I swear these Gladiator sequences in the Gladiator Roman Coliseum, I swear the longest one was like 3 minutes long. Like, never once was I on the edge of my seat going, okay, I wonder what they're going to do in this situation. You don't even have time to do that. It doesn't even feel like they're communicating. It just feels like all of the dialogue was generated by ChatGPT, and none of it's human. Like, you have the main character, Lucius, and all he says is, stick together. It's like, yeah, okay, we know your dad said that, but are you going to add anything to it, or... No? Okay, that's it? Okay. So, I hated the movie. I'm still sort of collecting my thoughts on it, but the more I think about it, the more I hate it. I think it was everything wrong with modern day cinema. I really do. And I wanted to love it. I was looking forward to a sword and sandals epic. And what we got was sort of like the Netflix version of a Gladiator movie. And I hate throwing that term around, but that to me is exactly what it felt like. And don't even get me started on Denzel Washington in that movie. Politics. Jake, you gonna go home to Little Mustang, huh? Is that what you're gonna do, Jake? Denzel in this film, I love me some Denzel, but as far as having a character arc and setting up the character to do something in the film, by the third act of Gladiator 2, it's just so abrupt. And it's like this major thing happens, and then you blink your eyes and you're like, oh, it's over. Okay, so what changed? So, did you guys like Gladiator 2? Please let me know down below. As you can tell, I really enjoyed the movie. All right, and real quick, before we continue on, I did want to let you guys know that this new live show is sponsored by Sony Soundbar 8. Right now, you can save $200 off. That's right, $200 with the link down below. And if you do click that special link down below, I will say this, it immensely helps out my channel. If you just go check it out, read the specs. You don't even need to buy anything, but if you do, all the better. But if you check out the link down below to the Sony Soundbar 8, it definitely does help out my channel. And real quick, I'm going to give a quick mention to the Sony Soundbar 8 because I've been using it for the last few weeks to watch movies. And I watched Gladiator, which sounded phenomenal in that Sony soundbar. So I'm going to give a quick mention to the Sony Soundbar 8. I will be back in about 45 seconds. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back and get your questions in because I'm not going anywhere. I'm feeling a little bit feisty tonight and there's a lot to talk about. So hang on. I'll be right back after this brief message from our sponsor. Welcome to my living room because I want to tell you about the Bravia Theater Bar 8 with 11 speakers, Dolby Atmos, and DTS-X. With this soundbar, you can bring the theater experience home because there's nothing better than eating popcorn in your underwear while you watch a great movie. The Theater Bar 8 features 360 spatial sound mapping, which gives you the cinema-style surround sound. The sound is auto-calibrated to your room's characteristics with sound field optimization. It also supports industry-standard audio formats including Dolby Atmos, DTS-X, and IMAX Enhanced. And right now, you can get $200 off by using the link down below. So if you want more info or want to pick one up for yourself, check out the link down below and save $200 off right now. Okay, so that's the Sony Soundbar 8. Definitely check it out. If you got a little extra Christmas cash, I definitely recommend it as a soundbar. And once again, the link is down below. Just click the link, check it out. You don't even, if you just want a closer look at it, that's all I'm asking. Just click the link. That's really all you have to do. But I appreciate it, guys, and as always, thank you. And if you guys have any more questions on the soundbar, I can answer them during the live stream. But nevertheless, sounds pretty awesome. I love it. Okay, the next one comes from, and we have some people in here saying, had fun with Gladiator 2, nowhere as great as the first one, though. That's from Guillaume Lebel. Yeah, some people enjoyed the movie, and maybe I hold the original to such a high regard, or maybe I'm just very hypersensitive to bad storytelling. And I thought the lead role in the new Gladiator film, what's his face? I don't care. I thought he was atrociously miscast. I felt like if you just had a mannequin and you put the Gladiator helmet on him, I would have got a more charismatic performance. And maybe that character would have made more sense. Because in Gladiator 2, I don't know what his motivation was. He hated everything. He hated his mom. But he still wanted to really fight hard for Rome randomly and abruptly throughout the film, and I still didn't understand why by the end of it. I don't know what his goal or his logic or character motivation was, because the film forgot to tell me what it was. So thanks for nothing, Ridley Scott. All right. And by the way, this was also co-written, or I believe they have a screenwriting credit on it. This is from the same writer of Napoleon. So if you want a chaotic mess that's slightly boring, you definitely get that. So I don't know what it is with movies lately. They just like are afraid to turn up the saturation. I'm not saying you have to make it like a Michael Bay movie. Just when you go to color correct it and you just take the saturation bar, just go up 3%. Ooh, doesn't that look good? Wow. So speaking of that, I do want to quickly talk about Wicked. I enjoyed it. Now, when it comes to musicals, I wouldn't necessarily say they're my favorite genre, though I will say this, I've always enjoyed a good musical. So Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I just love Gene Wilder murdering children in his candy factory. I think it's a good time. I would say that's the original inspiration for movies like Saul, except it had more levity. And then you have Wizard of Oz, which I just watched the other night, and I don't think I've ever enjoyed The Wizard of Oz more than I did the other night when I watched it. That movie at times, the humor is still timeless for a movie that came out almost 100 years ago, 1939. So we got another 15 years or so. So 85 years ago, just about. But the Wizard, towards the third act of Wizard of Oz, really pick up on some of his humor. It's a little bit dark and dismissive, and I like it. But phenomenal film. And I was really paying close attention to the production quality of Wizard of Oz because I watched it on 4K. And I was like, this movie, I get why at the time this was so mind-blowing, and it still holds up. just like the minute little attention to detail at times still looks better than like shit we're getting nowadays. And plus, when it comes to the color saturation in that movie, it's a nice, beautiful, vivid movie. I enjoy looking at it. Now, with all that said, let's talk about Wicked. I did enjoy Wicked. I had a good time. And I think the best way to go into a musical, and maybe you're like me, or maybe you're not, but just hear me out for a second. Since meeting my wife, she's enjoyed musicals, and she's sort of turned me on to musicals, and I've looked at them from a different perspective, right? When you go into a musical, you should expect to get a musical, right? And for me, for a very long time, I was like, if I go see a movie, I want to see Nightcrawler or T2 Judgment Day. I want something action-packed, some grittiness. But on the other side of the spectrum of that, you have musicals, right? And it's fun just to let go and have a good time and really enjoy the choreography. And when it all comes together, I think it's almost beautiful in a way. And when it comes to Wicked, I knew a little bit about the Broadway stage play. I watched some clips online. My wife has went to see it. She loves it. And she sort of built me up for it. So I was sort of intrigued to watch it in a live action setting. And I will say, I think the comedy works. I think the odd couple dynamic between the Wicked Witch and Glinda, played by Ariana Grande, was good. I liked the humor, where she sort of has like a Barbie doll personality. And people came across somewhat likable in the movie. And they had like a touch of humanity, which is very much appreciated. And by the third act of the film, when you had the big climax singing sequence, hey, I'm not going to lie to you. I got little chills. I quite enjoyed it. And have I been listening to that song for the last 3 days in my car? Yes. Yes, I have. But with all that said, the biggest detriment I have with the film Wicked is just the color timing and the saturation of the movie. Now, when I went to see it, I accidentally somehow bought tickets to the 3D screening on my Regal Unlimited app. And I got to the theater and the dude hands me 3D glasses. I'm like, what's this for? He's like, for your movie. I'm like, oh, yes, I meant to do that. But I will say this, when it comes to a musical or a movie like Wicked, I think the 3D kind of helps make it a more immersive experience. I really do. And it just makes it a little more fun. Was the 3D okay? Yeah, there was some depth to it. But my biggest complaint, and once again, maybe there's some blame to be put on the 3D screening of the movie, which they make the screen very bright, and maybe that washed it out ever so slightly. But I went back and watched trailers of the movie, and it's just too washed out. It really is. I almost wanted to download the trailer and up the saturation by 2% and go, this is what it should look like. Especially for a musical. You want a fantastical musical? You should have bright, vibrant colors, right? Why does it have to look so dull and washed out and dreary? I don't understand that new trend in Hollywood, and I hate it. So, those are my thoughts on Wicked. I will dive into your questions now. Feel free to ask anything and everything you want. And we have a big question here from M, who goes unnamed, but here it goes from M. And thank you for the very generous super chat. It appears many films have let you down this year. What film exceeded your expectations this year? And show us your best dance move. You want to see my dance moves? I don't think you can handle that. Never mind. I was going to do a little something like that, but you don't want to. My John Travolta will stay for private use only. Ooh, yeah, good looking. So as far as not a lot of, well, listen, in all fairness, there's been a lot of great movies this year, and I'll tell you one that exceeded my expectations, and it was a little movie called The Substance. Quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed that movie. Now, this is a film, this is not an American film, which I think that's why it takes risks, and I actually have a good time along the way. But The Substance to me was something that sort of pushes the limitations of feeling comfortable, and I enjoy things like that. I like when a film can take you out of your comfort zone and put you somewhere else just for a few hours, and by the end of it, you want to go home and take a shower. The Substance moved me. Now, some people would say the third act goes a little bit off the rails, and I say, no, no, no. This movie wanted to prove a point. And that point was, well, Demi Moore can turn into a giant monster. But anyway, I quite enjoyed it. So I would say for a movie that exceeded my expectations, I would definitely say The Substance. But another movie that exceeded my expectations would be Wicked. Watching the trailers for this movie 4 months ago, I did not care about this movie. I could have given a shit less. But watching it, I had a good time. It made me happy. Maybe that's what I need more of. But I'll tell you a movie that didn't make me happy, Gladiator 2. All right, let's go to the next question here. And the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, is The Rock becoming the new Steven Seagal? I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but if The Rock did have a shitty ponytail and ran like a girl, he might be Steven Seagal. But then again, The Rock just looks cooler than Steven Seagal ever did. Let's be honest. And I'll say this right now. Even as a kid, a stupid little kid, I never once bought Steven Seagal as an action star. I really never truly did. Okay, the next one comes from Gabe Newell, who says, John, I 100% agree with your review of Gladiator 2. In my opinion, they should have just gone balls to the wall and went with Nick Cave's script where Maximus is resurrected for eternity and kills Jesus. Absolutely. I would have taken anything else besides what we got. Why do you want to go see Gladiator 2 when all it... Here's the way I'm going to describe Gladiator 2. And I'm going to use the same way to describe Twisters, the sequel, but really it's a remake for newer generations who haven't seen the previous installment. Because like the new Twisters movie and like the new Gladiator film, it essentially just retreads everything its predecessor does. Plot point, beat for beat, it retreads every single thing. Now, does it tweak things a little bit? Yes, it does. And does it interject some new things? Absolutely. Both films interject new characters, new storylines, and new subplots, right? But the main core of the story remains what its predecessor was. And all that new junk, aka shit, that they interject into both of these movies just feels like digital noise and filler. None of it's entertaining, none of it's meaningful, and you won't remember any of the new characters or subplots that they had. And that's the truth. And both looked overly digital and gloomy and oddly choppy with a weird narrative. But coincidentally, they also both have really terribly crafted scenes and characters that don't make any sense and almost come across cheap. For example, in Gladiator 2, I don't know what it was, but the interior shots of the two emperors, played by Eddie from Stranger Things and some other guy, it felt not like a $200 million movie, but it felt like a made-for-streaming service film at times. And it was bizarre to me that it looks so bad. And both are overly reliant on CG. And I think most producers and executives working today just assume everyone that goes to see movies has a severe case of ADHD. And you need big digital explosions every 7 minutes in your movie, or else you're not going to enjoy it. They forget that the thing that makes movies so great are character moments, subtleties, human emotions, getting invested in your main character so you care about it. I think they forget these things. So it's like those things come across like obligations during the runtime of a movie. And they're like, how can we get to the next action scene? I know, put a fucking CGI rhino over there and have him run and then shoot it like a comic book movie. That's what the kids want to see. That's what they'll like. But make it really jump cutty. Yeah, we can't stay on a scene longer than 14 seconds. They'll get bored and fall asleep. They'll whip out their phones and make TikTok videos. So I'm going off on a tangent. I know, I'm sorry. But I'm just getting riled up. Listen, it's because I care, okay? I care. You know, I'm not a movie critic. I'm just a movie enthusiast. And I just want them to be good. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, I'll sum it up like this for Gladiator 2. If the original Gladiator was made anything like its sequel was, we would not be talking about Gladiator 25 years later. No one would give a shit. Just like no one's going to give a shit about Gladiator 2 next week. No one's going to talk about the movie. There's nothing to be said about it. There's not one memorable sequence. Because all of those are in the original Gladiator from 2000. Those are the things we'll talk about. That's the movie people will remember in 100 years. Not this digital nonsense junkiness that just got spewed out from Hollywood's asshole. But I'm glad some people enjoyed it. I certainly did not. Okay, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from... the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, who's an actor with zero range yet somehow keeps getting work? The Rock? The Rock at least has charisma. And I think charisma goes a long way. And I think that's what's lacking from most modern day actors. What's his name? Paul Mascal, the guy who played Lucius in the new Gladiator movie. And people say he's a good actor. But in Gladiator, I thought he was truly atrocious. And if there's a scene, and I was trying to clip it out and add it to my feature-length review of this movie, but there's a scene where he goes, what does he say? He says something. He looks like Rocky Balboa when he says it. He goes, like it's silly looking. It's in one of the trailers if you go watch it. I don't know. I just thought the movie, and it had weird flashbacks that just felt like they were tacked in, that someone shot on an iPhone. Someone's Gladiator 2 out of 10. I'd give it like a 3 out of 10, maybe. 2's fair though. Okay. Gilliam LaBelle says the gods have spoken. Yes, they have. Okay, the next one comes from... Oh, come on, chat. Slow down. Hang on. Please bear with me for one moment here. Okay, here we go. Jordan Kudajar says, it seems like Scott maybe has lost his touch. Yeah, you know the best way I could sum up how I feel about Ridley Scott? And listen, the man's 80-something years old at this point. Is he not? Or is he 70-something years old? He's old. Now, this man has made some phenomenal films, right? And he's a true craftsman. And he will go down in history as one of the best directors of all time. And once again, maybe I can blame this on his age, but it feels like the care and attention to detail is lacking. And it sort of feels like, okay, shoot it. One take, good enough. Let's go to the next thing. And maybe that's not maybe that's not his process, but that's how it feels like his films are crafted these days. They just feel so quick and abrupt, and that substance that used to be there isn't quite coming to the surface anymore. And really, I think the best way to describe it is, I feel like Ridley Scott's turning into his brother Tony Scott, who just made really surface-level movies that felt really choppy. And listen, calm down. I love me some Top Gun. I like Days of Thunder. But let's all be honest, Tony Scott movies were sort of like the 1980s and early 1990s equivalent of Michael Bay. They work, but they're never narratively as well crafted as any Ridley Scott movie. And that's my opinion on that. Okay, the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, would Gladiator 2 been better if Denzel was the main character instead of the side? I don't know if Denzel acting like Denzel in a Roman Gladiator movie was necessarily the best call. And I don't know if Denzel could ever have an accent that would be viable or somewhat believable other than talking like Denzel. But I would have liked to have seen him try. And then in all fairness, sometimes you don't necessarily need the American actor to have an accent, because I'll give you a throwback to another movie I like, Some people hate it, but I like it. And that's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Kevin Costner does not attempt an English accent. Absolutely not. He just talks like Kevin Costner. And I was okay with it. And maybe I'm biased. But Denzel, just talking like Denzel, I don't know. I was trying to love it. I was trying to get into it. And maybe that's not even the problem. And do I think he should have been the main character? No. But I will say this. They should have flushed out his motivations throughout the film rather than having this abrupt third act, off the rails story for his character that when you just step back for 3 seconds and use 3 brain cells, it didn't make any sense. And the way that things unfolded made even less sense. And it felt so abrupt. And I get that the movie wanted a twist and it wanted to dive deeper into politics. But the movie, it felt like it focused too much on retreading territory. And all of the new ideas that it had, it gave no time to. I think that's the best way I can sum that up. And then it's abruptly over. It's literally, you go, oh, okay, that's the twist. Okay. Oh, the credits. Got it. Okay. Oh, flashback. Oh, flashback to other things in the previous movie to make me feel something. Because this movie has clearly not been able to do that. So now we'll rely on flashbacks of Maximus to make the audience feel something. Oh, look, remember that good movie that we watched 25 years ago? Okay, yeah. Oh, we're back. Okay, the credits. Thanks. Oh, Gladiator. I hate it. Okay, the next one comes from Wrangler52, who says, will you be doing a Black Friday flick trip video? That's a great question, man. I want to. The truth is, I've done a Black Friday video, I think, every year for like the last 5+ years. I think I have. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain I've made some Black Friday video yearly, consistently, since like 2018. But I might do a Black Friday video, and I don't know how extensive it will be. Do I want to go check out some of the deals? Yes, but the truth be told, all this shit is online a week ahead of time. Everything that you can physically go into a store and buy, amongst the unwashed masses, you can just buy it on Amazon or the store's website, and it'll actually be in stock, and you just click buy, and it's going to show up at your doorstep. But for the sake of a YouTube video, I probably will. I'll go check out. But the thing that's really unfortunate with Best Buy getting rid of physical media, now what do we have? We have Walmart, and then we have Target. And Target I refuse to go into for a Black Friday video because the last time I went there, they had a cardboard standee with 3 movies in it. And when I saw that, I wanted to burn the entire store down. I really did. I did. I wanted to light a flame and burn everything down because I thought the end of humanity has finally come upon us. And I felt nothing. But I might go into Walmart and make a video. But the last time I went there to look for movies for Black Friday, I couldn't even find them. So if you guys want to see a Black Friday video, it's going to be me in my underwear sitting in front of my computer going, hey guys, so I'm on Amazon.com. Let's Black Friday shop. But then again, maybe I can do that. I don't know. Would you guys like to join me? I'd like you to be there. All right, the next one comes from Non-Fat Matt. That's a great name. Here it goes. I've gotten my wife to watch your live streams with me over the years. It's become a tradition that we watch them when we do the dishes. That's really interesting. I like that. Let's continue. She now knows staples of the live streams. Your lawn care, your heating pad, Claudia Roca job. That's awesome. Well, hey, listen. Thank you so much for that. That does mean a lot. And I relate to that in many, many ways because there's bizarre YouTube channels that I watch and podcasts that I listen to. And my wife now knows the mannerisms of like a kooky guy who talks about wrestling, who lives in Kentucky, who's like 65 years old, named Jim Cornette. and she knows all of his lines, all of the funny catchphrases that he has. And I don't know if I'm proud that she knows that because of me, but nevertheless, I think you feel the same way, but I do appreciate it. So, do you guys hand wash the dishes as you listen to my stupid, annoying voice? Nevertheless, thank you so much for that. But maybe, just maybe, well, then again, I was going to say, if you had a dishwasher, would you still listen to my podcast? Don't ever get one. Keep hand washing. Slow. Get through the entire thing. But thanks for that, man. I love hearing little anecdotes like that. Makes me feel good. And say hi to the wife for me. Unless she's washing dishes right now. The next one comes from Gabe Newell, who says, John, I 100% agree with your review of Gladiator 2. Oh, I already answered that. I'm so stupid. But thanks for the question again, man. The next one comes from Azim the Dream, who says, Hey, Johnny, what do you think of Cobra Kai Season 6, part whatever, question mark? Are you excited for part 3 as well as the new upcoming Karate Kid with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan? Okay, let's talk about Cobra Kai Season 2, part 2 out of 14. There was one point in my life where I really did enjoy Cobra Kai. I still stand by the season 1 is the best. And I think the series should have focused on Miguel, this kid winning a karate tournament, and sort of focused on his life. And then it sort of spun off into this Degrassi High teenage drama, and I was okay with that. And then by season 4 and 5, and especially by now, I just feel like we have nothing new to say. And we're still resolving our differences with a karate tournament for like the 9th time. And I just can't buy it anymore. I'm trying so hard. And as a guy wearing a Cobra Kai shirt, I know. But whenever I see John Kreese, I just go, what the fuck is happening? You just see this old man with clearly too much Botox. And that's not a complaint. I'm not talking negatively here. I'm not. I love me some John Kreese. I really do. I love crazy, kooky old characters, no matter what, in real life or in movies. I love them, and I hope to be one day. Hell, maybe one day I'll be John Kreese. I'll hang out with kids in the woods, and we'll fight to solve our differences. But no matter what, I will escape prison to hang out with teenagers because I want to show them karate. Why? Because Cobra Kai. That's why. In Vietnam, we only had Cobra Kai. It's outrageous. What was I talking about? I don't know. Let's go to the next question. Gabe K says, Gladiator 2 was ass. Heretic was great, though. I concur with you. Heretic was a nice, simple horror film that was sort of easy to get through. And the thing with Heretic was it's not this gruesome, violent, bloody, gruesome, over-the-top horror movie. Nah, it's just sort of simple. There's like a religious debate. I love Hugh Grant in that film. Well, to be honest with you, I love villainous characters that have a British accent. I just think it adds to it. So I quite enjoyed Heretic. Comic Man 02 says, Hey, John. Really big fan. Well, thanks for that. What's your opinion on the new Absolute Batman Batmobile dump truck? I think the Tumblr has a new competitor for coolest Batmobile. What are we talking about right now? Batmobile dump truck? What are you talking about? Let me look this up. Oh, this. Okay. What is this? I mean, that's kind of cool. What's the point of this? What is happening? What is this from a comic book? What is this? It's literally the Batmobile. Okay, it looks like a huge dump truck, but a Batman themed version of a dump truck. I like it. but I don't know the point of this. So I'm glad that I seen that, but with all that said, I think it's best to move on now. All right, the next one, and thanks for the question, man. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with it, though. It's outrageous looking. Those are my thoughts. Kyle says, John, what do you think Tarantino will announce as his final 10th film? Well, at one point, Tarantino's final film was going to be The Critic, which I was really looking forward to. A movie about a movie critic from a director who probably fucking hates movie critics? Give it to me now. I was really dying to see that movie, and I thought that was like the perfect way to go out because it was probably going to be a big FU to the critics of his films. And I dig that. I do. But now apparently he's changed course and isn't doing that any longer. So I don't know. I really don't. But would you guys, I've told this once before and I'd like to tell it again. Speaking of Tarantino and film critics, a few years ago, when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was being released on 4K, a marketing company reached out to me and they said, hey, we'd like you to do a movie night featuring Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on 4K. And I said, absolutely. I loved the movie. And they're like, yeah, we know. We saw your review. And Tarantino is personally going to pick the influencers who promote it. And he's going to watch their reviews. And that's when I knew I was cooked. Because in that review, I go off for like 5 minutes. I'm being hyperbolic. Like 20 seconds. I go on like some sort of tangent about how much Tarantino loves feet in his movies. And if this is news to you, I'll explain what I'm talking about. Does Tarantino maybe have a slight foot fetish? Yes. Hey, in all fairness, a lot of people do. And I respect and support it, okay? Because he loves putting women's tootsies really close to the frame in his films. And in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, well, he's no stranger to it there. You have some dirty little feet up in the windshield for like 5 minutes of the movie. Hey, that's art. I buy it, okay? Maybe wear flip-flops if you're walking around Los Angeles as a hippie girl and your feet won't be so dirty. But nevertheless, I said that in my review, and I think he watched it. And he said, fuck this guy, because the next day, I did not hear from them again. But anyway, I just hope somehow, someway, Tarantino did see my comment about how much he loves feet. And now he'll never respect me. But you know what? I can live with that. Okay, the next one comes from the 50% Doctor Who podcast says, do you think the Pigeon Lady is alive in the Home Alone universe, and would you grab a selfie with her if you saw her? In real life, if I saw the Pigeon Lady, I would bash her over the head with a cinder block, and I would dump acid on her body so it disintegrates instantaneously. That way, it doesn't affect the rest of humanity. That's how disgusting the Pigeon Lady is to me. She's covered in bird shit, man. Like, not just because she's homeless, because by choice. She just lets birds shit on her. Like, that's her thing. Like, Kevin just walks down there on Christmas Day with 2 turtle doves and gives her one of them. No, Kevin. Take a bar of soap from your $5,000 a night hotel room and maybe take that down to the Pigeon Lady. Or hey, Kevin, why don't you take your dad's credit card that you just maxed out on Christmas presents and cookies, you selfish son of a bitch? And why don't you take that down to the Pigeon Lady so maybe she can get a hot meal and stay inside rather than be covered in pigeon shit for Christmas? But then again, you know what? I wouldn't even went down there and talked to her. I would have looked at her from my penthouse window with all my presents and my family, just drinking eggnog, looking down at her in Central Park covered in bird shit, and I would just slowly close the curtains. That end credit scene done. That's how Home Alone 2 should have ended. Let's go to the next question here. Was that too far? Did I go too far there? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Scott Sullivan. Scott Sullivan. I've been thinking a lot about you lately, Scott. I really have. And I'm going to give you a big congratulations and a big thank you in just 1 minute. We're going to get there. Hang on. Part of it is lack of contrast too. More contrast can increase the perceived saturation without overdoing it. Well, I don't disagree with you. I guess that's a fair point. You lower the contrast, that kind of dulls it out naturally. So you're right. Yes, I think the contrast, maybe that's a better way to say it. I think the contrast of Wicked should have been cranked up a few. Not necessarily just the saturation, though I think the saturation is a good starting point, but I do concur with your opinion. The contrast also needed to be cranked up like 2%. Just give me a little contrast. It looks too faded. Wicked looks like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and it almost feels like I have dog color blindness when I'm watching it because I'm not picking up on certain hues in the movie. But going back to you, Scott, I want to let you know, because of you, and I'm going to get, maybe a lot of you do not know this, so you can all thank Scott, but you can also thank me for giving you the message as well. And don't say I never gave you anything. But I did not know if you were a Regal Unlimited movie member where you pay $20 a month and you can see all the movies you want, which I just signed up for because I have been seeing more movies now than I ever have. But if you are a member of that, once a month, they have something called Mystery Movie Monday, where Regal plays a new upcoming movie ahead of time. And it might be a few days ahead of time or a week ahead of time. And just recently, and this might not be the best example because I've been shitting on it for the last 45 minutes, but they did show an early screening of Gladiator 2 for Mystery Movie Monday at Regal. And so that would have been nice to see it Monday. It would have been even nicer if the movie was good. But I did not know this event existed until you, Scott, in a comment that you left on a live show. So thank you for that, man. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the new one. The next Mystery Movie Monday for Regal is December 2nd. And I'm kind of hoping it's Kraven the Hunter. Like, I'm secretly hoping it's Kraven the Hunter. I know. But just hear me out for 1 second here. I have zero expectations with Kraven the Hunter, okay? All I want to do is take drugs and watch a shitty movie. And then maybe, just maybe, it's so bad it's slightly good. But then again, it won't be. So, never mind. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Lee B. Film says, if the CIA chose movies to torture people for information, what do you think should be on the list? Oh, movie 43 maybe? Gladiator 2? Gladiator 2 would be too good. If you really want to torture someone, I was going to go with the new Home Alone movie. I thought that was pretty atrocious. That's a great question for everyone watching right now. What would be the perfect film if you wanted to open up their eyeballs, Clockwork Orange style, and torture them? What would be the perfect film to torture someone with? Please leave your thoughts down below. I want to read them. Cream and Cheese says, yo, John, you're a savage. Well, thank you for that. Avocado Balls Johnson. Oh, that's funny. He's going to call the cops from a treehouse. Yeah. Let's go to the next one here. Movies Are Rad says, don't you mean pester, but... don't mean to pester, but have you seen Snack Shack yet? It's like the way, way back, but set in the 90s. My favorite of the year, and I really think you'll dig it. I have not watched it yet, man. I'm trying to get there. I promise you I am. I have a list of movies to watch, and I'm slowly but surely getting through them. But lately, going back to musicals, I've sort of been listen, let me announce myself right now. I've been in the mood for musicals of late. Maybe it's just because I need some dopamine. Maybe I'm slightly depressed. Maybe it's the gloomy winter season upon us and the temperatures keep dropping. But with all that, musicals, or at least good musicals, are kind of a good time when you're feeling a little bit weird and you're at home and you just want to watch a movie in your underwear and smile and eat some frozen pizza. I did watch the first part of, and speaking of not smiling and not eating, Les Mis. I watched the first part of that with Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe and Anne Hathaway playing a prostitute. But I kind of enjoyed it. And I'm only like 15, 25 minutes into the movie. Anne Hathaway just gave her performance. But I'm kind of into it. And I know the movie's 2.5 hours long. But keep in mind, this is a musical where they don't just break out into songs and then you have some normal dialogue. No, they sing everything. Why are you doing that? I don't know. Why are you a prostitute? Because I have no money. But I kind of like it. It's slightly entertaining. It's just something so bizarre. And I think that's where I'm at in life. That's what I need. All right, let's name a few movies that you guys would torture people with. You sick, sadistic. Okay, someone said Interstellar. The Fanatic. The Fanatic is a great time. Batman and Robin 97. See, that's a good time as well. Oh, you see, the Point Break remake? Okay. Yeah, listen, I know one day when I go to hell, they're going to have the Point Break remake on replay. And I'm going to have to watch it for eternity. I already know. I know it. Madame Web, Jack and Jill. Roadhouse 2024 was pretty bad. Grown Ups 2, the Emoji Movie. Captain Marvel. I think the Marvels might be a better choice. Booksmart. Some good choices there. All right. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, what is a movie that makes you say, now that's a fucking movie? Man, Skylar, there's a multitude of movies that make me feel that way. There really is. For example, I would say the first Gladiator made me feel that way. I was like, that is a film. That is a film. A few other ones I would say is something like Shawshank Redemption. At the end of that, I go, that was perfection. Like, you couldn't change anything in that movie to make it better. And for me, the one I feel like this is a movie that just truly, they got lucky when they made it almost. And I just listened to a podcast where Robert Zemeckis was talking about it. But Forrest Gump, I watch that at least once a year, and it feels like you're getting 12 movies in one. But they all share this certain amount of levity with drama, and it's the perfect balance and blend. And when you watch a movie like Forrest Gump, it has character moments, it has some epic moments, but it has so much variety, and you feel like you truly went on a journey by the end of the film, and you do feel like you got something from it, and you feel like you were along the ride. And I feel like it's not just a movie, it's truly an experience. So every time I get done watching Forrest Gump, I go, that was a fucking movie. That is a film. So that's one I always kind of think of. But that's also another question for you guys. What is something that after you watch it, you think to yourself, that is cinema? So we got The Dark Knight in here. Avocado Balls Johnson says Shelby Oaks. I haven't seen it yet, but I would like to say that. Shawshank, amazing storytelling, absolutely. Yeah, another one would be, speaking of Stephen King, would be something like Stand By Me. You know, I feel like I went on this emotional journey. Or even, it's not one of my favorite movies, but I like it a lot. The Green Mile. I would say, like, holy shit. Like, I want to cry towards the end of that movie. And that's when you know you feel something. That's a film. Yeah, absolutely. Or another one, Jaws, great pick. Pulp Fiction. Someone said Terrifier 3. Yeah, that's definitely not one of them. Titanic, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, I will always defend Titanic. I will defend it until the day I die, okay? Avatar, not so much, okay? I'll stick up for it for a few minutes, but like I'm not sticking around to like hang out the whole time. But Titanic, go back and watch Titanic. If they try to make a Titanic movie right now, if they threw $900 million at it and you can get whatever director you want, whatever cast you want, it still would not look as good as James Cameron's 1997 Titanic. I truly stand by that. There's almost little to nothing you can change in Titanic to make it a better version of what it already is. I love it. It's a perfect epic. It really is. All right, so let's go to the next one. Is Django Unchained? Absolutely. Avatar is overrated. Yeah, I think it's overrated. I agree. But what it does well is what I like about it, right? Like the visuals, the immersiveness, going to another planet with blue aliens that just connect tails, and oh god, give me more of that. It's weird and bizarre. I don't go there for a phenomenal story. I know. It's like Ferngully. I am aware of this. And once again, big thanks to M for the very generous super chat earlier. Thank you, M. You're too good to me, man. Thank you for that. If I knew where you lived, I'd send you a Christmas card. Okay. We got one here from Jesus who says, I know you don't listen to hip-hop, but who do you prefer, Kendrick Lamar or Drake? Not sure you've heard their rap beef this year. I have not heard about the rap beef this year. What is it? What's the rap beef? Like, they're both millionaires that live in mansions. What are they mad about? Anyway, I've heard some weird stories about Drake, though, and children. But Kendrick Lamar, Drake, I don't know. I was never a really big fan of Drake, to be honest with you. Maybe Kendrick Lamar. I do occasionally listen to like some hip-hop music, but the thing is, I just could not name you anything off the top of my head. But there's shit that I listen to that I enjoy. I think it's catchy. I just don't necessarily like go out of my way for it. I've been listening to a lot of musical numbers lately. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. Oh, by the way, can I tell you guys something I did the other night for the first time? I know that sounds weird. I know it sounds weird. Okay. But that's what you guys come here for, isn't it? To hear weird shit and me talk about the pigeon lady? Okay, so the first time, the other night, and my wife sort of talked me into it, and with the upcoming sequel coming out, I finally got around to watching Moana. Now, Moana came out in 2016, and at the time, I was very picky about my Disney children films that I was going to see. I think I was turning 30, and I just was at a weird place in my life where Moana definitely was not the priority or the movie I wanted to see that week. So I put it on the back burner for 8 years. And keep in mind, I'm still a dude who loves Pixar movies and classic animated Disney movies. One of my favorite movies of all time is Toy Story, The Incredibles, The Lion King, Aladdin, and I quite enjoy the 2000 and I believe 10 Disney movie Tangled. So I'm all for a princess animated Disney flick, right? But for some reason, Moana just did not capture my attention, so I put it on the back burner, and finally the other night, because with a lack of options, nothing better to do, I wanted a Polynesian adventure, okay? I think we've all been there on a rainy November night, or at least I have been. And I wanted some Sour Patch Kids and Swedish Fish and some salty popcorn. But nevertheless, I quite enjoyed Moana. I think it was a fun adventure. I liked the Polynesian legends in the movie. And also, I think, if for nothing else, the different vibe and spin that the movie has, rather than telling a rehashed princess story where she needs to find a prince to save the kingdom, well, she's sort of just a girl who goes on a journey, and I liked that. So I recommend Moana if you haven't seen it, or if you're like me and you just skipped watching the movie for 8 years. So I'm sort of looking forward to the sequel. I'm going to see it tomorrow night, and I'll probably make a quick video review for it. Now, originally, I believe the sequel was slated to go straight to Disney Plus as a limited series, but then just a year ago, they kind of reworked it into a movie, which I'm hoping doesn't taint the movie and make it feel like really choppy and just incoherent. Like, oh, this was supposed to be a 6-part episodic series, but we condensed it to a 90-minute movie. Can you tell? I'm hoping that isn't the case, and I'm hoping it still looks as good as the original did. But nevertheless, that's my quick backstory on Moana. But the point of that story is The Rock's song in that movie, and as much as it's cool to hate on The Rock these days, I sort of find that song very catchy. You're welcome. I like it. I like that song. So either way, let's go to the next question here. Skylar Wheelock says, are there any movies out there that changed how you see the world? Man, oh boy, is there. And for good reasons and bad reasons, I'll put it like that. But I'll tell you this, when it comes to me as a dude and my ideology, when you go back to something like Point Break 1991 starring Patrick Swayze, where you have the character Bodhi, who was a good-hearted dude, who was very spiritual. The only reason he was a bad guy, or at least deemed a bad guy by society, was because he robbed banks. But that was only to fuel his endless summer of a spiritual journey of connecting to the waves. And he just wanted to feel an adrenaline rush. And the reason because all of that is, while everyone else was inching down the freeways in their metal coffins, well, they forget what the human spirit is. And he never did. And I sort of relate to that in a weird way. Like, I would be all for maybe not robbing a bank, but I'm just saying I can understand why, so you can actually live life. Because what society tells us to do every day, we are not meant to do that. The fact that we just grew as bacteria on this giant planet spinning through the void of space, and yet someone can tell me how fast to drive and how much I have to pay every year in taxes, the fact someone just said, yeah, you have to do that because I disagree with that. So that rebellious mindset of Bodhi sort of relates to me. So that's one movie that changed my outlook on life. I don't know if that was for a good thing. I don't know if it was, but that's one thing that sort of always defined me as growing up. A little bit rebellious, but a good-hearted person. That's how I want to be remembered. Another one, gosh, my outlook on life. I know there's probably like 50 movies I'm not thinking of right now that probably have truly changed my outlook on life. But a lot of the movies that I always relate to are sort of depressing and have bitter endings, and they're a bit ambiguous. But yeah, that's a great question, man. I wish I could give you another answer because that's a really philosophical question. Now here's my question to you guys, and I want you guys to chime in now with your answers. What is a movie that changed your outlook on life? Let me know that right now in the comments. Because it's about us against the system, showing that the human spirit is still alive. No, man, it was never about the money. Come on. I'll wait for your questions. Oh, another one that I always relate to is sort of Fight Club. I relate to Fight Club, but then again, when it comes to materialistic needs and being a consumer, I'm very guilty of that. Do I need all the shit I have in this room? No, but it makes me feel happy. Over the Top. I think that is definitely a philosophical journey everyone should go on. I did actually relate to that movie as a kid. Fun story, my dad was a truck driver. And he did like to work out his biceps. Though he was not a pro arm wrestler, my parents were divorced, and I did go with him for custody on the weekends. So I could kind of relate to Over the Top. Lord of the Rings, The Wolf of Wall Street, Star Wars, Deep Throat. Oh, geez, man. Rocky IV, Roadhouse. Yeah. I just love movies where you have a deep dive into a character's ideology, and you sort of relate to them. And society deems them the villain, but you sort of relate to the villain because all deep down inside, we're not all good people. We're really not. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Avocado Balls Johnson. Here it goes, man. I think a big Hollywood director could release a feature-length slow-motion toilet bowl POV shot of a turd dropping from his ass, and Chris Stuckman would still give it a positive review. I mean, that's quite the statement. He probably wouldn't review it, and I think that's the truth. But this also sounds like a French film I once watched via a Reddit link at 2 o'clock in the morning. I will just put that out there right now. Let's go to the next question. Big K Movies and Games says, your thoughts on Tron 3? I'm excited to watch it. Okay. So the new Tron movie, the thing that doesn't make me excited to watch it was looking at Jared Leto in the movie. I don't like looking at him in movies anymore. I just can't do it. And he instantly takes me out of it because I think, okay, what pretentious, weird, godlike, robotic performance is he going to give in this movie that's going to take me out of it? And I'm talking to you, Joker, and I'm talking to you, Morbius. So I don't, but do I want to see neon colors with Daft Punk playing and light bike races? Is that what they were called? Light bikes? That sounds right. Do I want to see all that again? Yeah. And does Tron Legacy look awesome on like a bright, vivid 4K Blu-ray? Absolutely. It sure does. I'll say this about the new Tron movie. I think going to watch it in like 3D on the big screen sounds like a good time. And much like Tron Legacy, I doubt the story is going to be that deep or meaningful or have much to it, but I guess I'm sort of looking forward to it, yeah. Who's directing that? Does it have the same director from Top Gun Maverick? Or it's got a new director, doesn't it? I think it does. Okay. Daft Punk retired? I guess I did not know that. Light Cycle, yes. I called it a light bike. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Horror by Jordy says, FMK, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, and Jade Cargill. Oh, man. I don't know. That's a hard choice. They could all beat me up. I know that. So we're in good hands there. And they could all protect me. You could just... I don't know. You know what? You know the truth to that answer is it's all like you could either all of it would work. To be completely honest with you, I'd be okay with any of it. Speaking of pro women's wrestlers, Raw started a little bit ago, and I'm kind of looking forward to watching it tonight. I'm really looking forward to Survivor Series this weekend. Okay, the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, what's something that's always wrongly depicted in movies and TV shows? Something that's always wrongly depicted? Well, the one thing that I've always noticed was people never say bye on the phone. I'll meet you at the place at 2 o'clock. Click. No, it's like, hey, what'd you just say, man? You said 2, right? Not 2:30, 2? What place? You're talking about the place or the place? Or the other place? Like, I just want some more banter like that in my phone calls. The other thing is, and I think most movies at one point this made sense to do, but any movie set in modern day, it makes zero sense to do this, which is the reason I wish all movies took place pre-2010. I just think it was a better time and I would rather watch movies. But the thing is, whenever characters have something to say to each other, nowadays, if they're not in the same place, logically, it would make sense to have that conversation via a phone or a FaceTime. And sometimes in movies, you see things like that. But most movies always have this like obligation. Now it's like when they say something to each other, well, they have to meet up somewhere very cinematic. And that feels so forced in this day and age when you have smartphones. To me, I'm like, they would never leave and go across town to have this 5-minute conversation that they could have had via text message. But I'll even go a step further than that. Going to the point where they actually do have that in-person conversation, they talk for like 2 minutes and then they just separate. It's like you spent gas money and time getting here. Like you took an Uber. Like you put pants on and took an Uber to come here to tell me those 2 things you just said. Okay, let's talk about some other shit for a minute before you leave, man. I've always noticed that. And I especially, you know what sitcom is guilty of this like no other? Go watch the show Suits. Every 5 minutes, someone's calling someone to tell them to meet them and then they leave out of their office, walk across town, meet them for what, I shit you not, is literally a 12-second conversation, and then they go all the way back to work. What? Okay, let's go to the next question here. Avocado Balls Johnson back at it again says, spend one night in bed spooning the pigeon lady, or one night locked in a kennel, butt naked and surrounded by 10 hungry pit bulls. Oh, you basically just turned me into, Game of Thrones. Reek. You just, so basically become Reek, or hang out with the pigeon lady. You know what? Cut me with a hot blade. I'd rather be Reek. Clark Ingleton says, A Different Man is a great drama, darkly comedic, good movie from this year. So, yeah, we can quickly talk about A Different Man starring Sebastian Stan. So I did see this movie at Fantastic Fest. Yes, that's what it's called, in Austin, Texas a few months ago. And I did see this as one of the screenings, and I kind of enjoyed the movie. It gets a little bit artsy, but it definitely has like some dark comedy. And if you don't know what A Different Man is, basically there's this man born with a face deformity, and he's an actor, and then he undergoes this operation to make himself look like a normal guy. And he does. But oddly enough, he is less happy in life. So it's kind of a fun movie and slightly depressing at the same time. But I would recommend checking it out just once. So I have seen it. Caleb says, Hey, John, I am buying a house with my wife. We close on January 16th. We are excited and nervous. Do you own or rent your house? And what do you think is a better decision? Keep up the live streams. Awesome videos, man. Well, thanks, Caleb. So as a guy who has owned many of houses and rented a handful of apartments and have moved probably 15 times, truth be told, if you plan on staying where you're going to buying is probably always going to be the better option long term, because you'll have a return on your investment. You own it. You don't have neighbors under you or above you stomping up and down like their shoes are made out of bowling balls. And it's an investment that hopefully one day pays off, or worst case scenario, you might break even on. But the one thing that you'll never get back is your rent money. Ever. So I think buying, if you can, is definitely always the better option. So congrats, man. Hope you enjoy the house. Yeah, I could, at this point in my life, I couldn't imagine not having a yard to mow, because I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So the next one comes from Elliot Cecil, who says, watch Gladiator 2 and felt my leaking... what? Watch Gladiator 2 and felt my leaking out halfway through. Your brain, maybe? Oh, yeah. So it did, in fact, drip out of your ear, and you forgot what to call it. I get you, man. Yeah, when I was watching Gladiator 2, I was like, for the first half of that movie, I was like, I was trying to love it. I really was. I was like, okay, yeah, that's okay. That's not as good as that, but that's okay. But just the way it was crafted and cut together with the weird flashback scenes, and the lead actress coming back with way too much Botox in her face that just felt so disingenuous and non-authentic. By the second half of that film, when, you know what it was? It was when the main character and another gladiator guy were fighting in front of the emperors at some dinner party. And Paul Mescal basically does the Olympic slam. It's a wrestling move onto the gladiator, onto this cheap breakaway WWE style table. And the emperors go, ooh, like the way that was shot and the way that looked, this did not look like a historical epic. This did not look like a gladiator film. This felt like it was some modern day Netflix Roman movie that I'm watching for some reason in the theater, and for some other reason, it's borrowing the title Gladiator, which it does not deserve. That's the point where I hated that movie. Was that your question? Did I even answer it? Oh, yes, I kind of did, yeah. Okay, the next one comes from Nose is Wild, who says, Johnny, you get a chance to check out Better Watch Out 2016. It's the perfect holiday season. Better Watch Out 2016? I don't think I have. Better Watch Out 2016. The Batmobile dump truck came back up. Yeah, I haven't watched it, man. One day I'll try to get to it. Skylar Wheelock says, which two fictional characters from different universes would be best friends? Wait, hang on. Better Watch Out 2016. Oh, this. Now I remember. Yeah, I remember you telling me about this. I have it on my list. I forgot it existed, though, but I do have it written down on a list. So I'll look into it, man. I do remember this now. Okay, the next one comes from, Skylar Wheelock says, which two fictional characters from different universes would be best friends? Off the top of my head, I don't know, Dr. Doom and Thanos. I don't know. They probably both agree on human genocide to some degree, don't you think? But be best friends? Let's see what you had to say here. I'll start with Frank Underwood from House of Cards and Walter White from Breaking Bad. Ooh, that's an interesting choice. Okay, interesting. I think Jigsaw and Hannibal Lecter could see eye to eye on some degree. Do you not? I'll go with that. Okay, the next one comes from Lee B. Films, who says, thoughts on Trey Parker 2025 comedy film starring Kendrick Lamar about slavery. What is this movie? Trey Parker? I have not seen this, man. I have no clue what this is. I don't know if you, I don't know what this is. This sounds insane. I'll look into this. I will be looking into this at some point. Actually, right now. Oh, God. All right. Trey Parker comedy slavery film. Just saying it's going to get me canceled. Is this a real thing? It looks like it is. It's a new musical. Slave comedy begins filming. Okay. If that's real, I don't know. I'm curious to see a trailer now, if it ever happens. Okay, let's go to the next one here, who says, Kyle says, I didn't even see Gladiator 2, but the way you're describing it reminds me of the new Star Wars. It sounds like it didn't really tell a story and just relied on nostalgia. Well, it absolutely does rely on nostalgia. It has nothing new to say. It has nothing new to say at all. And it just... the way it was crafted to me was baffling. Like, the camera work did not look like it came from Ridley Scott. It just looked like Ridley Scott might have been there in the vicinity, but some other guy who directs Netflix TV shows directed this movie. That's what it felt like to me. The next one comes from Elliot Cecil says, watch Gladiator 2 and film... Oh, we answered that. Skylar Wheelock says, what would be your death row meal? What would I eat for my last meal? I'd probably just want a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Well, the truth is, I love tacos. I love a good juicy New York strip. I like mashed potatoes. And I will just say this. My last wish on death row would be, I want a bathtub full of mashed potatoes. Not only to eat... But there's a few things I want to do before I die. And it's always been to sit in a bathtub full of mashed potatoes. Now, I know this might be asking a lot, but I am a dying man on death row, so please grant me this wish. Can I please have cream corn as well? Don't ask questions. And that's probably what I would want. But no, in all seriousness, a normal portion of mashed potatoes and a New York strip would be just fine. Okay, the next one comes from... I feel like that was the weirdest question I've gotten all night. Zepsy Cinema says, what do you think about the cast of Nolan's new film? Charlize Theron just got added. Also, do you want it to be a horror movie? God knows I do. So yeah, I did read the cast of the upcoming Nolan film. You have Charlize Theron, you have Matt Damon, you have Tom Holland, you have... Is Anne Hathaway in there as well? And a few other actors are in there as well that are really great. So a lot of people mention that this could be a 1920s vampire movie. And okay, sounds cool. I'm on board if that's what Nolan wants to make. But the other idea and concept floating around was this would be a slightly futuristic movie about helicopter pilots, and they were also police officers. So it's sort of like a Top Gun Maverick vibe, but with helicopters and probably more of the heat element with the action drama vibe going on. And truth be told, if I'm getting Robert Eggers' Nosferatu next month, I don't necessarily need Nolan to make another vampire movie. I want Nolan to make a huge, epic action film that justifies me going to the movie theater and watching it on IMAX. And if he can return to form and give us what he was doing with The Dark Knight, or with some Inception in there, and that sounds like a good time to me. Like, I want a new modern day action movie to hold to the gold standard. The same way I look at something like T2 Judgment Day from 1991 being the most epic action movie of all time. If anyone can maybe attempt to do that again, I have faith in Nolan to do it. And if he can make what I just described was basically Top Gun Maverick with helicopters and cops and some action crime drama going down, that sounds like an awesome time in IMAX to me. But the vampire movie could be cool too. I'm just saying, I have a weird thing for seeing like futuristic helicopters on an IMAX screen. That makes me feel like a 10-year-old boy again when I close my eyes and I think about it. Which I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what I need right now. Okay, the next one comes from Claudio Rogajan. Here it goes. Hey John, I watched Gladiator 2 and I thought it was just fine. Question to you. What is your reaction when you saw those CGI sharks in the movie? I had to hold myself from laughing. Also, how the hell do they get sharks there? Sharks move to breathe. Well, that's the same question I had for myself. Now, the CGI sharks didn't throw me off as much as the CGI monkeys did, because those didn't even look like they exist on this planet. The way they were moving and how sharp they were, and when he was wrestling around with the monkeys. And by the way, it seems like the only thing people fight in these movies are CGI animals. But when he was fighting that CGI monkey, there was like one scene where he had his chain wrapped around its throat, but it looked like you could just tell it wasn't quite right. Like it was misaligned where they put the CGI monkey and where the actual chain was. It felt like the frame was out of whack with... Anyway, that's how much I hated it. But as far as getting sharks into the Roman Colosseum, I don't know if that's accurate. I almost don't believe it is. But then again, maybe they could have just thrown a shark into a wooden bucket and dragged it. I don't know. And that's what I wanted to see. I would have loved to have seen more humanity, more world building from the movie Gladiator 2. Like, show a few scenes, like how the Gladiator pit is getting prepared. Show me them crating in a shark through the underbelly of the Colosseum. Show me how they got it up there. Like, give me these things. Give me this insight. Actually make this feel like a historical epic other than some disposable Netflix action movie. And it just refused to do any of those things because they just were afraid to like calm down and tell a story. They just wanted like action cutscenes of CGI rhinos. I don't know. I would, but logistically, how the fuck did they get a shark in there? I don't know. Okay, the next one comes from Aaron Papart, who says, what movie do you love that your wife hates and refuses to watch? My girlfriend refuses to rewatch movies even if she doesn't remember anything about it. She refuses to watch some of my faves, Signs, Zodiac, The Batman, etc. Immediately dispose of her now. Leave. So my wife, if I recommend something, we'll watch it. Eventually, we'll get to it, and we will watch it. And a lot of movies I've shown her for the first time, and there's been a few movies that she's shown me for the first time. But what was the question? Oh, what was your... Wait, where are we? Yeah, so there's no movies my wife refuses to watch. There really isn't. I've shown her movies like Roadhouse. I've shown her Nightcrawler. She likes them. She really does. I preface with what this movie is, and she gets it. Like, she picks up on like the 90s nostalgia and just the vibe of the movie, and she appreciates it for what it is. But I have not shown her over the top. At some point in life, I will do that. And if she refuses to watch it, we will simply just get a divorce. That's how that's it. You're done. Winner takes all, loser takes the fall. Okay? All right. But no, in all seriousness, there has not been a movie. Okay, the next one comes from Night King 01, who says, I watched Gladiator 2 yesterday. I was mildly entertained while watching it. It felt like a direct-to-DVD sequel with $200 million. Also, the real history is so much more interesting, like how Marcinus, I cannot pronounce ancient Rome names, Marcinus, a.k.a. Denzel. Oh, yeah. I cannot say his name right. Denzel Washington actually became an emperor. Yeah, no, I know some of the backstory, especially like on the two emperors. And I think at one point, and I could be making this up, at one point, wasn't there a Roman emperor that did in fact have syphilis who was losing his mind? But little things like that are great things to attach to a character, like STDs. But no, there was so much more, and I agree with you. Just some of the real historical facts, if they would have just told it the way it was, and not in this abrupt narrative, you would have had a quality movie. But the look of it still, like you said, it looks like a DVD movie. Lee B. Film says, FMK, Sydney Sweeney, Ariana Grande, your wife. I'll take my wife for all three. How's that? Kyle says, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream. Well, speaking of Forrest Gump, I must drink myself about 13 Dr. Peppers. Is it 13 or 15 Dr. Peppers? I can never remember. Azim the Dream says, Johnny, kind of surprised people now find Matt Reeves, the Batman and the Penguin, to be kind of slow and boring, even though some thought it was better than the Dark Knight trilogy. How do you feel about it 2 years after it's been out? Has it surpassed the Dark Knight trilogy for you? Yes or no? Well, I don't think you can rationally come to the conclusion that one movie, The Batman, has surpassed an entire trilogy of 3 films. So I think at some point when The Batman gets another sequel, and I think The Batman's probably only getting one more sequel, I don't see it making it to a trilogy, though maybe it will. I think that all depends on the future of the DC James Gunn version of Batman. But if it does get to a trilogy, then we can make that comparison. For me, I like The Batman quite a bit. There's a lot I love about it. But after rewatching The Dark Knight a few months ago, they both do things to perfection when it comes to storytelling and Batman. But I stand by the Batman feels more like the vibe of Gotham City and Batman. But man, when it comes to a better movie, I still stand by the Nolan trilogy currently. I just have to. And I find it highly, highly rewatchable, and it moves along much quicker. But I love the Batman. I do. I need another movie. I need another movie in that story. Night King 01 says, another thing about Gladiator 2, I watched the first one last week in 4K. How did this in IMAX look worse than that film? Film is really superior. Also, you're going to have sea battles. Do it like it actually happened. Put crocs on hippos, not sharks. For sure, man. I don't even bring this up anymore in my movie reviews because I just feel like it's almost cliche to say, but the truth is film makes a movie look more epic. Having that glow, that look, that heartbeat, that grain just brings it to life. And then when you watch, and the thing about film, though it has phenomenal resolution and even better than digital, it still has this slightly out of focus look at things can be slightly out of focus, right? And that's the beauty of it. I kind of like that. But when you watch something like, and I'm great point that you brought up here, Night King. When I was watching Gladiator 2 in the theater, I was noticing the sets. It was so digital and sharp and gloomy. Nothing felt like it was real. It just felt like someone took this prop and sat it on this table. And everyone looked oddly crisp and dry and just too sharp. And I think that sharpness, especially in an epic ancient film, completely destroys the tone and look of it. If ever a movie should have a glow to it and a warmth to it and not look digital, it's an ancient epic. So you're absolutely right. Another reason to hate Gladiator 2. Aaron Papart says, I want to get a 4K TV. Which one do you recommend I get? I have no idea which one, but I want an immersive home experience. That's funny. I just did a sponsorship for Sony Bravia LED, mini LED TV, and it's in my living room currently, and I've had it in there for about a month now. And usually I'm an OLED guy, and I will stand by if you want the superior contrast. OLED is the way to go. But watching this mini LED TV, this Sony, it's so bright, and the HDR looks so crisp and sharp. It's sort of a different experience, but I enjoy it in my living room. I kind of like having the brighter TV. And then when I watch movies in my theater room, I go to my OLED TV. But if you have the cash, if you have the money, I would recommend, and you love cinema and you love movies, I think OLED is the way to go. But if you might have a budget and screen size is the preference, like you want a bigger screen, for less money, OLED isn't going to give you that. But, like using the Sony Bravia, it's the Sony Bravia 7. They have newer ones out currently, or different models that might be slightly better, but I'd recommend that. I really would, because all the issues I've ever had with LED or LCD TVs in the past, this one corrects those issues. It really does. Like, not everything's perfect, but like I feel like it's at a point where I would actually recommend it. John, what 4K Blu-ray player do you have? I have my Xbox Series X or whatever it's called. Is that what they're called? I think it is. That's when you're getting old. You don't know the name of the new console. But I have a Panasonic 4K player, and I also have a Samsung Blu-ray player, which I need to update because the last time I tried to put Gladiator in there, it would not let me watch the disc without updating it. I'm like, fuck this. I just went to the other room and watched it on a different player. So those are what I currently have. As far as the model number, I could not tell you. But what I do have, I think, down below in the description of this video, and I could be mistaken. It might not be down there. Yes. So in the description of this video, there's a link called Things I Use that goes to my Amazon store. And that's pretty much a lot of the things that you see in my video, like my camera equipment, my TV, things like that, are in that link. So check that out if you want to, for random shit that I use occasionally on YouTube. That way I can actually show you what I use. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Dustin Rich says, have you seen King of New York? I love it, and so does Tarantino. It's my favorite walk-in performance. I have seen it. I remember getting that on DVD, and I was going through a Christopher Nolan phase, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. I have seen it. I vaguely remember the movie, man. That's the truth. I've watched it, but I vaguely remember it. I was going through a phase where I was watching that, like True Romance, and everything like early 90s related to like things Tarantino liked or directed. Aaron Papart says, I want to... Oh, we already answered that. Alejandro has a question, and here it goes. What's up, John? I saw Gladiator 2, thought it was I'm not one to take an actor, but if the mock Oscar nominations are true, Paul Mescal is getting one. I will find it odd because I was moved more by Pedro Pascal, if anything, or even Timothy in Dune. Yeah, I agree. Paul Mescal, man, I don't know. I just don't think he has the charisma. And not to say like he did. I didn't buy him as a guy that Russell Crowe would produce as like a kid and grow up to look like Paul Mescal. But I don't necessarily need to see the story of Gladiator about this dude. Like if he was a secondary character in the movie, okay, that's fine. But as the lead, it did not feel like a leading man performance, or at least for me. And Pedro Pascal being in Gladiator 2, I don't even know what the point of him being in that movie was. I really don't. I never once cared about his character, and everyone in Gladiator 2 knows Maximus. Everyone knows him. Yeah, I knew your father. I knew him. Yes, I knew him. How did you know him? and where were you when he was in the Gladiator pit fighting? All right. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, is Peter McAllister an underrated movie villain? Let his brother call Kevin a jerk without repercussions. Zero backbone. Gets first class seats to Paris for the adults, but gets mad at Kevin for his room service bill. Calls losing kids a family tradition. Yeah, maybe he was a sociopath who didn't really love his kids, and the only way he could show them love was by putting them in like some $1 million house in the suburbs of Chicago and buying them trips and having tons of Christmas presents. I wish my father didn't love me that same way. That would have been great. I don't think he's the villain. No, I would definitely say the villain. No. He's not the villain. Is he sort of a mindless father? Yes, absolutely. Slightly irresponsible, maybe. But I definitely say the villains were the wet bandits of that movie. And the villain of Home Alone 2 is the pigeon lady. No matter what anyone says, that's who the villain is. Z White says, can you tell us what happened to your dad? Oh, yeah, he passed away in an accident when I was 12 years old. You want to talk about my grandparents? They're dead too. Thanks, man. Thanks for bringing it up. No, it's okay. I've moved on. I've grown. I've expanded. I've used it as motivation and fuel for the fire that guides me through life in adulthood. Okay. The next one comes from... What other kind of devastating question do you have next? Let's see. Okay, the next one comes from Dustin Rich, who says, other than Tarantino Star Trek, what rumored movie that never got made would you trade one of your nuts for? Yeah, the Tarantino Star Trek movie could have been cool. That's not, like, that could have been an awesome Star Trek movie. There's so many movies that never got made. Like, I think of the James Cameron Spider-Man movie that would have been made in the, I think it was the mid to late 90s, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I think a James Cameron Spider-Man movie from the middle of the 90s would have been pretty awesome. I really do. Especially with the way James Cameron could film action and make things look epic. Oh, and the best part of this never-to-be-seen movie made by James Cameron, Doc Ock was going to be played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, imagine that shit. Hey, Spider-Man, What's got your neck? My tentacles? Like, okay, maybe the dialogue would have been better than that. And I hope it would have been. Or maybe, just maybe, it would have been just like Batman and Robin. I don't know. But, yeah, I think the James Cameron Spider-Man movie from the 90s would have been cool. There's a million movies that never came to fruition. And you're asking me at a really weird time right now because I cannot think. I'm trying. Well, that's a great question for all of you, and we can talk about it a little more. Let me know a movie that never got made that you wanted to see but never got made. Let me know. GF Hostman says, John, what's the best video editing program you use that you recommend? Listen, I have Adobe Premiere. I have the entire suite of Adobe editing software. And the truth be told, I've used it a few times. I hate it. I think simple is always better. And now, do I think this is something that you should edit a feature-length film on? No. Is it limited to some degree? Maybe. But it does everything that I needed to do. And if you're making YouTube videos like me, I use CyberLink Power Director. I think I use like version 17 or 18 or something. It costs like $8 a month if you want to do the subscription, but it's simple to use editing software where you don't have to click around like if you want to do one thing, you don't have to be an expert editor. You don't have to have a degree in it. It's very intuitive. So I would recommend that. That's what I use. That's the quickest thing I use to make my videos. The color grading aspect on it kind of sucks, but other than that, I like it. Mike Silver says, Tim Burton's Superman with Nick Cage. Yeah, that could have been a cool time, right? Like we could have had that. That could be a 4K back there on my shelf right now. That would be a good time. MCU Blade. Yeah, maybe in about 20 years they might make it. Tarantino's Casino Royale with Pierce Brosnan. That sounds cool. Men in Black Jump Street crossover. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's answer some more questions here. Huram Livonos says, want to go see Mamma Mia? I don't know if I want to, but I will. Yeah, I'm open to seeing musicals now. I'm really expanding as a person and an adult. So, yeah, if something looks good, whatever the genre is, I'm going to check it out. If it sucks, it sucks. But if it's great, hey, I saw it. And I'd rather see something great than skip out on it because I think it sucks. All right, the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, we should let Michael Bay walk the plank. Scarlett Johansson insisted on going topless for the island, but he told her no. Yeah, man. How do you even answer this question on the internet in 2024? Yeah, Michael Bay, what were you thinking? It's just, and you think it's baffling that Michael Bay would go that route, but for some reason, I just think Michael Bay has this like teenage boy sensibility to him. He likes big, flashy explosions. He likes saturation cranked up to 90% along with the contrast. He likes poop jokes. He likes looking at hot girls on fast cars. But if you go too far, it's like, ooh, no, I'm too scared for that. I have not fully evolved just yet to handle that level of maturity. That's how I best describe Michael Bay movies. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just an observation. Does anyone agree, or does anyone understand what I'm saying right now? Or do I just sound utterly insane? I'll live with either of those answers. Just please let me know. Z White says, can you tell us what... Oh, there goes the dad question again. Okay. Thanks, man. Let's talk about Scarlett Johansson's boobs. Okay. Skylar Wheelock says, what was the year you had the most fun watching wrestling? Don't talk about the 90s this time. Laugh out loud. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't talk about my childhood formative years of watching pro wrestling with muscle-bound men wrestling in baby oil. It made me who I am today. Anyway, so the most enjoyable year I've had watching pro wrestling, probably, to be completely honest with you, since the Attitude Era, Probably recently. I think the last year or 2 years of pro wrestling, the way it's evolved to being, it almost feels like wrestling grew with me in age. At every evolution, it was kind of exactly where it should have been at the time. And right now, I really feel like with TKO buying them and it having different leadership, and it sort of has a bit more of a sports realistic vibe to it. It sort of blends the element of UFC ever so slightly, as much as it possibly can, into something like pro wrestling. But I like the vibe of it right now. It's somewhat self-aware, but more serious than it's ever been, but it feels more sports-like. So I sort of enjoy that. And it feels like they're applying a bit more logic into storytelling than they ever have. And I think the athleticism in the past year has been mind-boggling. But with all that said, I did, speaking of pro wrestling, I did buy tickets to WWE Royal Rumble. It's February 1st. It's in Indianapolis, which is like an hour and a half away from my house. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the Royal Rumble. So if you guys are going, let me know. Hope to see you there. Okay. Someone said the Gambit movie. Who knows? With Channing Tatum coming back and Deadpool and Wolverine, maybe we'll get more of that shit. Robert Zemeckis' Yellow Submarine 3D. Someone said Michael Bay is one of the most talented directors in Hollywood. Michael, what are you doing watching my video? Oh, gosh. Okay. Let's go to the next one here. Skylar Wheelock says, I'm telling you, if it wasn't Zack Snyder and instead someone who cares about characters, Ben Affleck would have been the best Batman. Such great potential wasted. Oh, I completely agree with you on that. I really do. Zack Snyder was not the right choice for Batman v Superman, and I wanted to love everything about it. And I think, visually speaking, some of the elements Zack Snyder brings to the movie are great and enhance it, but as far as storytelling and character, no. If Zack Snyder could have just been a consultant on some of the visuals, okay, I can live with that. But then again, when it comes to Batman v Superman, the more I rewatch that movie, the more I hate it. Some of the handheld shots look atrocious. Some of the chase sequence with the Batmobile chasing down the semi truck with the tracking device on it, and then Superman intervenes, just looks really bad. It sort of looks like a cutscene from a video game, the way it's like laid out. It doesn't feel like it has any humanity to it whatsoever. So, I don't want to go on a tangent about Batman v Superman right now. But yeah, the more I watch that movie, the less I've liked it. But wasted potential for sure. Like, there's moments in that movie where you go, what could have been? Dustin Rich says, other than Tarantino's... Well, we answered that. Mountain Goy says, John, what are your plans for Black Friday? Been watching them since I was 11 or so, turning 25 soon. Watching you be disappointed by the death of Black Friday and the downfall of society has been a proud annual tradition for me. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for those very, very insightful, profound words that will live with me and resonate in my soul until the day I die. And speaking of dying and Black Friday, you hit the nail on the head. That's how I feel every year with a new annual Black Friday. And it does get more disappointing and more depressing. But it's not my fault. It's not. Don't hate the player. Hate the game. Because Black Friday, society is just, I don't know what we're doing. In one regard, everyone's showing up like cockroaches drawn to cheap Chinese products on Black Friday and buying shit that we don't want and don't need to impress people that we don't like. As much as I can say I hate things like that, on Black Friday, I sort of miss that tradition where the masses would all come out and we would do that exact thing. And sometimes not even buying anything, just going there and enjoying the chaos and anarchy. I kind of miss things like that. It let you know that you were alive and there were other people that existed in this simulation. But now everyone just sits at home and buys shit off Amazon. It's sort of weird, isn't it? I don't know. So yes, to answer your question, I probably will make a video. Okay. Let's go to the next one here. All right, the next one comes from, and thanks for watching, man, for so long. I won't disappoint you, I promise. Okay, Pokemon Lover 92, someone I definitely don't ever want to disappoint, says, John, if you were able to erase a memory of watching any movie, what would you do in order to experience it for the first time again? Or do you think doing so could potentially make a movie you once enjoyed bad? If yes, what movie? That was the most complicated, thought-producing question I've had in my entire life. And I don't know if that was a riddle or a question or a statement or the most philosophical group of words ever put together. But if I could erase one movie from my brain and rewatch it for the first time, I don't know, because that gets a bit complicated, especially when you're talking about the butterfly effect. Because what if in the past I never watched that movie? Thus, my love for film and cinema wasn't quite there, and I didn't give a shit about movies as much as I do. Thus, I never would have made a YouTube channel. Thus, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now, contemplating said question. That's what you have to really think about. But if I really had to pick one, it would depend, okay? And I need to give you more insight to answer this question in a fair fashion. There's been certain nights in my life where I've had the urge, and maybe you guys relate. You have this urge to watch something epic, something 90s, but you've seen it way too many times and you don't put that certain movie in. So it would just depend on that day or that time or how I'm feeling. Because imagine watching The Dark Knight for the first time. Like, you're really bored, you want something epic. Oh, what's this movie called? The Dark Knight? You pop that in. I like Batman. And then it unfolds in front of you. So I don't know. Maybe Terminator 2 Judgment Day. There's been many of nights where I have craved 90s action films that are made to perfection. And that's like the movie that always comes to my mind. And plus, I love watching Arnold on the big screen. I really do. Nothing makes me feel more like a kid than watching Arnold up there just deliver his lines with a heavy Austrian accent. So that's the best answer I can give you. Okay. The next one comes from... Okay, here we go. Avocado Balls Johnson, speaking of movies you could torture people with, Suicide Squad 2016, Jared Leto's Joker is weapon grade cringe. I physically can't watch it. Oh, it's disgusting to me. It's utterly disgusting. That's the movie that made me not like Jared Leto anymore. Like, I can't watch him. I can't look at him in a movie. I just can't look at him do that anymore. And that's the truth. Like, whenever Jared Leto is announced for any movie, I always just go, oh, it's going to be kind of cheap and not good. And I'm even in Blade Runner 2049, it almost took me out of it. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't look at him. I'm being unfair. And not to say Jared Leto, he's a beautiful man. He really is. Talented guy. I just don't like looking at him in movies. And that's a me problem. I know that. And I can live with it. Mike Silver says, I was just thinking T2, hell yeah. You and I both, Mike. Okay, the next one comes from Night King 01. I will give 1 point to Gladiator 2. At least Ridley Scott didn't do that thing he always does where during an action scene, he shakes the camera for 5 seconds and then someone falls over dead miraculously. I don't even know what that is. Yeah, well, I mean, didn't Nolan do that in The Dark Knight Rises? But anyway, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess they were on it. That's the one thing they got right in that movie. Will H says, John, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Nick Nolte in Warrior. Well, also, wasn't that the line in The Italian Job? From, I forget the actor's name. But anyway, that was the line in The Italian Job as well, wasn't it? So anyway, it's not a proper live show without your Nick Nolte impression. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'll give you just one Nick Nolte impression tonight, and then I'm going to have a sip of my tasty beverage. Nick Nolte impression. Here we go.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, Tommy. All right, take him out of your pocket. I heard him when you walked in.
All right. I'm sorry for that. I really am. Night King 01 says, so just so you know, they did use sharks, but not in the Colosseum. They would artificially create arenas out at sea, and obviously you'd have sharks that would straggle in. More than likely, it would be crocs or hippos in the Colosseum naval battles. Yeah, no, I think having a crocodile would have been just as cool as having a shark. That would have been fine by me, or hippos. Yes, I'd be fine with any of those things if they were told in a fun, interesting way. And I felt something when I watched these epic fights with these CGI animals, rather than just thinking, this kind of feels like a music video. All right, the next one comes from Libby Films, who says, speaking of Tron 3, I have no hype because of Jared Leto, Nine Inch Nails soundtrack, and the director of Dead Don't Men No Tales. Yeah, what was the question, though? Oh, more of a statement. I agree with you, man. A lot of hate for Jared Leto tonight. It's weird. Why did we do this? But I like it. Will H says, John, I finally found those Shat gummies you had on a live show a few shows back, and my final flicking thoughts for them is that they are delicious. Thank you for displaying them on your show. Will H, you actually like the Shat gummies? You like those bulbous, disgusting things that taste like they were stale? They taste like gummies that the best way to describe them was they were like some shitty fruity candy that they made in 1995, right? And then a week later, it ceased to exist. And somehow someone went to a warehouse covered in dust, and they said, oh my God, Shaq, we found all these gummies that look just like you. Would you like to promote them and put your name on them? And he went, yes. And now they're releasing those things. And that's exactly what they taste like. They taste like chemicals. And not the good kind of chemicals. Not the kind you get in Sour Patch Kids. The bad chemicals. But man, come on. Come on, Will. Don't eat those. You need to go to Swedish Fish. John Doe says, hi, John. Give live tips to find a soulmate. Don't settle. Okay? Don't settle. Try something out. If it doesn't work, try to fix it. If that doesn't work, well, come to the conclusion that you can't change people. And if you have to change someone, it's definitely not meant to work. I don't know. Just don't settle, man. If you connect with someone and feel comfortable, you know what it is. The most important question you should ask yourself is, when you're with them, doing the most meaningless stuff, is there anyone else you'd rather do that with? And when the answer is no, that's when you know you're who you should be with. That's the most meaningful life advice I can give you. Okay. Claudia Rogajon says, those monkeys looked like some prehistoric creatures. Maybe the bad CGI was throwing me off. Also, I love how the original had real tigers. Yeah, they were combined in, and one was a guy in a tiger suit, but at least they were real. CGI just looks off. Yeah, I miss the practical tiger in the original Gladiator movie. That entire sequence alone is better than any action scene in Gladiator 2. It's just so well paced and thought out, and it takes its time. There's little emotional moments when he hits the one dude in the face and you see the blood trickle down the mask. Oh, just like little moments like that, but you get none of it in the new movie. And yeah, the CGI creatures really just like they look too sharp and too digital. Like, just add a smudge to them or something. Rub some Vaseline on the lens. Like, they just looked like digital graphics. It looked like Snapchat filters Lucius was fighting with. Ronald Reagan 76 says, did you ever watch Terminator 0 on Netflix? If so, what are your thoughts? I never got around to watching it. A lot of people said they weren't into it. But I have not got around to watching it. I'm sorry. I just don't have time currently. it was sort of on my to-do list at least to watch one episode of it, but I couldn't even bring myself to do that. Not yet. But did you still like it, man? Did you like it? Claudia Rogajon says, did you finish The Penguin? I barely started. I'm sorry. I'm like halfway through it, and I don't hate it. I just don't need this much of The Penguin. I know, I get it. I just get it. And maybe is that weird? So, you know what? Someone called me out on this on the last live stream, and I read their comment, and they said, John, I never thought in 2024 we would have to twist your arm to get you to watch a Batman spinoff series. But the weird thing is, when it comes to superhero spinoff series or comic book series in general, for the most part, they're not what I need them to be. I feel like sometimes these stories are best told in 2.5 hour increments. But no, I eventually I will finish the Penguin series. I'm sorry. I was spoiled by Tony Soprano giving me like a really good performance that didn't feel like an off-Broadway play. Claudia Rogajon's, Silvio says, love your content. Well, I love you too, Silvio. And thanks for watching. It's not a bad take on the Penguin. I just feel like it's not this pivotal series that's a must watch. I understand if people like it. I'm just not that glued into the story of it. Mike Silver says, I'm definitely not a Jared Leto fan either, but he was pretty good in Fight Club. Yeah, you know what? I will agree with you. In Fight Club, he was too fucking blonde. I love Jared Leto in Fight Club. 1 pair of black boots, 2 pair of black jeans, 2 white t-shirts. Thoughts on Fantasia 2000? Not one of my favorite animated movies. And by the way, guys, I have some YouTube members in here right now, and thanks for being a YouTube member. And I want to give you guys a quick update. If you are, in fact, a YouTube member or a Patreon supporter, I did put out a couple videos just for you guys. I put out a full Flick Cave theater room tour. It's very laid back. It's 16 minutes long. I give you guys kind of an in-depth tour of my entire room. And eventually, at some point, I will make a YouTube one for the masses to see, because I know you guys want to see all my movies back there and my weird quirky shit on that shelf over there. But anyway, if you guys are YouTube members, that video is available right now for you guys to watch. If you go to my channel, you should see it in the videos. Also, I put out my first in the theater thoughts of Wicked after watching it. So there's a couple videos just for you guys because it's the least I can do. So thanks for being a YouTube member. And if you want to be a YouTube member, just click the button and do so. But if you don't want to, it's completely fine. We can still be friends right here, right now. Okay. The next one comes from Alejandro, who says, me and my dad started pointing out a lot of things that are not logical in the movie, but what made me laugh is that he pointed out that when Paul's mom died, a horse magically appears. Not only that, the path clears up with no traffic to chase Denzel. Yeah, that was Russell Crowe's ghost from Elysium doing magical things. There's a lot of things in Gladiator 2 that don't make any logical sense, and I would start with the fundamental story first. The flashback scenes. Lucius, you have to leave Rome, even though your father said it was safe after he sacrificed himself and killed the evil emperor. Like, what happened? What happened in between that? Oh, we just have 2 new villains. Okay, how'd they get here? You don't want to tell me? Great. Will H says, John, would you rather get a kiss on the cheek from Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Pooh, or the Pigeon Lady? I'd rather eat a bucket full of Mr. Hankies than even go within a 10-foot proximity of the Pigeon Lady. Jacob Krukya says, I'm outside standing in your backyard. I've come to recognize your Blu-rays alphabetically. Don't get scared now. Have a great night. Well, I'm not opposed to someone watching me. I quite enjoy it. That's what we're doing here now. My curtains are closed. You lied to me. Okay. All right. The next one comes from Night King 01, who says, have you ever seen the movie Deep Cover with Lawrence Fishburne and Jeff Goldblum? Okay, off the top of my head, I don't know if I have. I know you like gritty crime thrillers, and this is one of them. Jeff Goldblum gives one of the best performances in it. Also, Bill Duke directed, a.k.a. Mac from Predator. I have not seen this movie. I wish you would have put a year with it. No, but I've seen the Lawrence Fishburne movie from 1996 called Fled, about two convicts who escape, and the climax of the movie ends at a national park called Iron Mountain, which is in fact located in Georgia, where I lived at the time, so that's why the movie was more interesting to me. Either way, I've seen that Lawrence Fishburne movie from the 1990s that's instantly forgettable, but the other one, no, I have not. The next one comes from Night King 01, who says, John, speaking of real movies, I watched the first Fast and the Furious film on 4K like 2 weeks ago. The movie got way better with age. Feels like a real movie that, and Fast 5 are the best. Vin Diesel actually gave a shit then. I agree with you. I will always have a soft place in my heart for the first Fast and Furious, known as the Point Break remake with cars. But I've always enjoyed it. And going back to that, just going back to that dynamic between Vin Diesel and Paul Walker in that movie, I love it. Like, they kind of feel like real dudes in that situation. And that's before Vin Diesel's character Dom became a big bloated baked potato who only cared about family. That was his only motivation and logic. But in the first movie, everyone kind of feels like a real person, don't they? Granny shifting. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. Wrangler52 says, quick review of Wolf of Wall Street, one of my faves. Wolf of Wall Street, one of my faves as well. I've always enjoyed movies about con men who want to beat the system. I find them quite intriguing, especially true crime dramas like Wolf of Wall Street. That was the movie that introduced me to Margot Robbie and I think all of society. So if for nothing else, we have to give it a round of applause based on that. But as far as one of the modern day quintessential Martin Scorsese movies, definitely up there, and probably one of my favorite movies he's ever made. And I remember when that movie came out in 2012, Martin Scorsese at the time was like 70. What is he now, 129? I don't know. But watching Wolf of Wall Street just like showed how much vitality he has as a director, because that movie's made, Wolf of Wall Street feels like it's made by a guy in his 30s, not a man in his 70s. But yeah, I loved the movie. And then my favorite sequence in that film, though, is when Leonardo DiCaprio goes to the shopping center place where they trade penny stocks. That entire sequence is pure gold to me. If you sell 10,000 shares of this, I'll blow you right now. I mean it. I love it. Wolf of Wall Street's phenomenal. So kind of just talking about it makes me want to go watch it again. All right. And by the way, a quick flick fact about Wolf of Wall Street. The reason Matthew McConaughey looks so skinny in that movie is because he was filming Dallas Buyers Club at the time. I Googled that one night. Okay. All right. The next one comes from, was that a fulfilling review? I give it an A. Joker Face 501, no super chat, but thanks for the super chat, man. Nevertheless, Claudia Rogajon back again says, you're the only person saying the Penguin is just okay. I know, call me crazy. I don't know. I don't follow the masses. Listen, I think when it comes to a spin-off prequel series, it's fine. I'm just not as moved as everyone else by it. I'm sorry. I think it's interesting. I really do. I do like kind of a character study on the Penguin. I just kind of see Colin Farrell doing his best New York accent. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I just think 8 episodes of it it's too much. It's too much for what they're giving me. Okay, the next one. Yeah, I know it's not a prequel. It's a prequel to the next movie. I know it takes place after the Batman. I'm aware. Okay. The next one comes from Michael Witherspoon, who says, "Hey, John, I'm sorry I'm super late sending love." Well, you're never too late to send love. So thank you for that, Michael. Thank you. I feel it upon me right now. Ooh, I like it. It's tingly and hot. The next one comes from, have I watched the show Servant? No, I have not. The next one comes from Big Don, who says, I like how Smile 2 is still in theaters and Joker 2 is already on streaming. I know. Isn't that bizarre? Did you ever think you would say such a thing in like last year? Night King 01 says, my favorite dumb moment where you know they did not care at all is when Paul Mescal walks into Maximus's shrine and says, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." How does anyone know he said that? He only said that in the opening battle of the first film. Maybe it was a popular phrase his father was known to say, but nevertheless, there's so much detail and info that everyone knew, and I question, how did everyone know this? Like, did someone write some story about Maximus after his passing? How does everyone know this explicit detail about this man who they all claim to know, but have no real connection other than just saying that? I don't know. I don't want to think about it too much, to be honest. Night King 01 says, you mentioned con men, and I watched this film recently as well. Barry Lyndon is a historical film about a con man swindling his way into English high society. It's a Kubrick film and was way more entertaining than I thought it would be. That's one of those movies I've never seen. It's always been on the to-do list, is Barry Lyndon. It's like there's one point where I wanted to watch every Kubrick film and you make it 90% of the way and you kind of like give up. But Barry Lyndon is definitely one of those. So you recommend it. Okay, good to know. All right, the next one comes from Oswald Cobblepot, who says, watch my fucking show, John. There's 8 episodes on HBO, and you should watch it right now. No one actually said that. Cinema Cola says, best movie of the year so far. Man, I got a couple of my top 5, but like picking my favorite, I'm still holding out hope that I haven't seen it yet. But really, we have Nosferatu left. We have Kraven the Hunter. I'm seeing Moana 2 tomorrow. But my favorite movie of the year, I have not decided on what it is. I think The Substance is definitely going to be number 2. As for number 1, I'm not quite sure. I don't know. That would make more sense to have a number 1 and not be quite sure about number 2. I know, but I'm really hoping it's Nosferatu. But then again, at one point in life, I thought Joker 2 could have been that movie, and then I saw it. I don't know if I would put. I would almost go so far as to say I might put Wicked at number 10, just because it was actually a really enjoyable theater experience. But I could probably tell you my worst movie of the year. It might just be Red One. But I'm not quite sure. There's a few movies I still need to see. Okay, the next one comes from... And by the way, if you guys are YouTube members or just in the normal chat, feel free to chime in right now. I'm going to answer everything and anything right now. Matt Pierce says Black Friday is pretty much the entire month of November now. I know. That's why I don't like it. I miss the urge and the rush and the adrenaline rush you got when you knew you had to run into the store and knock little kids out of the way to get some cheap consumer grade product that I'm not going to give a shit about in 2 weeks. I miss those days. Mike Silver says Matchstick Men with Nick Cage and Sam Rockwell was a cool con man movie, a con man with OCD. Oh, absolutely. I enjoy Matchstick Men immensely, and I relate to Nicolas Cage's OCD. I'm very weird and temperamental about things that get on my couch or things that get close to my food or touch my food, or just like Like, I'm so OCD with things. Halfway through using a straw, I feel like this straw is so dirty and clogged with my bacteria that I need to get a new straw so the soda tastes better. Because all I'm drinking now is regurgitated bacteria I put in this plastic tube, which, by the way, is filled with millions of microplastics. So, no, I love Matchstick Men. Great movie. Joker Face 501 says, John, wrestling dream match you want to see? Wrestling dream match I'd like to see? Well, if we have to go by like today's standards and age is of a factor, like you can't just go back in time or something. I don't know. Gosh, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of who actually could live up to the hype. I would like Brock Lesnar to come back. But to wrestle who? I don't know. How about John Cena versus Brock Lesnar? That just sounds like that would be a cool spectacle match to see. But the unfortunate thing is, I'd go with that right now. If I could book the main event for Royal Rumble, that's the shit I'd want to see, okay? That's just a weird dream match. But is it going to happen? I'm not quite sure. Who are your favorite characters from The Sopranos? Oh, besides Tony, definitely Paulie. Forget about it. Yeah, I love Paulie. Christopher, I kind of thought was an interesting character. Did you know the kid from Sopranos, AJ, has a podcast with oh gosh, I forget the actress's name. Anyway, he has a podcast, and he kind of comes across like the exact character he played in The Sopranos. It's bizarre. Oh yeah, Gunther and Brock Lesnar in a dream match. Yeah. Well, that was actually rumored to actually happen at some point, so we'll see. Okay, the next one comes from Zelda Fan 1998, who says, have you seen Searching or Missing? Two very underrated thrillers that take the unfriended approach and do it very well, especially Searching. I've never sat down and watched them. People have those are one of those movies that people have told me for years to see, and I never watched it. Was this told through the? Yeah, this is told through the social media approach. See, that's what sort of turned me off to the movie. Whenever it's told through like a webcam, or I have to see chat bubbles on the screen the entire movie. I'm not saying that you can't make a good movie about that, but whenever I'm in the mood to like click a movie on, I need the cinematic experience, and that just doesn't quite give it to me. Not to say if I didn't come across it on a rainy night, I'd probably sit down and check it out, but that's why I'd never watched it. But people have said that's a great movie. Speaking of that, have you guys ever seen the movie Megan is Missing? What an ending. Claudia Rogajon says, Matchstick Men, a.k.a. Ridley Scott's only good comedy. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair statement. I really do. The White Skull says, are you going to get any more Blu-rays? On the last live show, I showed a handful of movies. As far as this year, what I would want to buy on Blu-ray, off the top of my head, I can't even think of anything I really want. I honestly can't think of anything worth buying unless they're putting out some catalog title that I don't own on 4K that has never existed on 4K. I can't think of anything else I'd buy this year on Black Friday. What are you guys getting on Black Friday? What is there to get? What do you want to own? Beetlejuice? Like, what do you want to buy? That's the problem with movies. I think for me, that's the biggest issue. There's movies that come out throughout the year, and I think, yeah, that's good. That's fine. But I never have the urge to rewatch it again. And that's the most unfortunate thing about modern day cinema, or at least for me it is. Favorite GTA game? I haven't really dabbled in the GTA franchise for a long time. The last one I played was like San Andreas, to be honest. Like the one, like I always liked Vice City. I would say was like the most fun I had in a Grand Theft Auto game. And am I kind of looking forward to the new one? Maybe I'll check it out just to drive around. But as far as like completing the missions, I just kind of get bored. I'm like, I don't want to keep doing this. I just want to drive around and look at things. And that's probably the only reason I'll buy the new Grand Theft Auto game. You should start a Criterion collection. I have some Criterion movies. I buy the ones I like. I just don't buy every single one of them. Mike Silver says, I like The Substance was like an art student film going for shock value and shoving over the top oblivious social commentary in your face. It did make me laugh a few times though. But you also have to appreciate the grotesqueness of it all and the actual physicality of the movie. Like that movie, though it's a bit on the nose, how gruesome and grotesque it is, but how stylized and how perfectly filmed it is. I just think it was like the perfect blend of having an elegant movie with the most grotesque shit. And I loved that contrast. I loved it. I thought it was so visually pleasing and disgusting at the same time. Take that how you will. Do you play video games anymore, John? The only thing I play is Rocket League. I occasionally play Rocket League. And by occasionally, I mean every morning and every night until I get the urge to smash my controller on the floor. And that's when I just abruptly quit and say, damn it. But I just play Rocket League. Claudia Rogajan says, worst Ridley Scott movie, The Counselor, what the F? Yeah, that was a big letdown. I hated that movie. And that says a lot about the Gladiator. Like they both feel like they're from the same guy. But neither should be from Ridley Scott. Matt Pierce says The Counselor is a masterpiece. I hated it, but then again, I haven't seen it since it originally came out. But I remember thinking this doesn't feel like a real movie. Yeah, Margaret Qualley, yeah. She was great in The Substance. The pump it up scenes. Oh, gosh. Drunken Boxing says, I'm addicted to Rocket League. You and me both, man. I've been playing Rocket League on my TV in my living room, which is a little bit larger. Typically, I play it here on my computer screen, which is 32 inches. And just playing on that smaller screen immensely helps me become better at Rocket League. When I'm playing it on a larger TV, it feels like I'm playing underwater. Everything's all slow and mushy. I hate it. But I'm too lazy to get up from my couch and come in here. So that's why I played out there. John, are you excited about Superman Legacy? I sort of am. I absolutely am. I'm hoping James Gunn resurrects DC and we can have a full-fledged universe of these great characters doing awesome shit in comic book movies. Give it to me now. And I guess really I'm waiting on that trailer from Superman Legacy to drop to get the full tone of it. And I'm okay with a more comic booky Superman. Absolutely. I'm just hoping that they get the tone right. But most importantly, a lot hinges on this. Because if audiences don't show up to the new Superman movie, well, the entire DC universe that they want to make and expand on might be doomed. And I think that's really why they're waiting to make like a third The Batman sequel before they dive into the new Batman. I think they're kind of like waiting to see how successful the new Superman movie is. But to sum it up, yes, I'm excited to see it. It's just called Superman now. They dropped the Legacy title. Yeah, you know what? I don't think I think that's a smart choice, to be honest with you. Calling it Superman Legacy kind of like hinders it a little bit. Just call it Superman, not the Facebook. Okay. Isn't there already a movie called Superman? Well, yeah, but it's fine. I think it'll be all right. I don't think anyone cares. Like, as long as you have Superman, no one cares what the tagline is. It does not matter. Will Challengers be in your top 10 of this year? You know what? I always sort of forget Challengers when it comes to the conversation of top 10 of the year. And you know what? It just might be. I thought that was a good time. I liked how that movie had so much vitality. Like the way that it was directed felt like it had this energy behind it. And it sort of had like a David Fincher way of telling a story, which I quite enjoyed, but with maybe a little more vibrance to it and energy. Yeah, I enjoyed Challengers. I really did. I don't think it's probably going to be like one of the most rewatchable movies of all time, but I did enjoy. I think the way it was directed elevated the story. I really do. And I enjoyed the story. I thought Zendaya was good in it. You had these two simps chasing down this toxic girl, but hey, I get it. But also that's the director of the upcoming American Psycho film. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So yes, I think it will be. Michael Parton says, hey John, have you seen the Sonic 3 trailer yet? I kind of watched it. I think I watched it. Did I watch it or did I watch a reaction of someone watching it? At this point, I can't recall. But yeah, it looked like a third Sonic movie. I'm not the hugest fan of the Sonic movies, though I enjoy the games. The movies with CGI Sonic interacting with human characters, it sort of reminds me of Alvin and the Chipmunks, and it gets a little too hokey. And listen, I know it's supposed to be made for children. I completely understand that. I just was hoping for just a little more, less of the tone of a movie for adolescents, I guess. I don't know. Like, I want to watch a cool Sonic movie, but every time he meets with Steve, the guy from Idaho in the movie, I'm just like, I don't care about this. But I did see that there's two Dr. Robotniks or two Eggmen in the movie. I don't know what else I could say about a Sonic trailer right now. Are you guys looking forward to Sonic 3? I'd have to watch the second one. I thought the first one was fine. Best movie, Megalopolis or Joker 2? I have not seen Megalopolis yet. I've been kind of like holding off on that. I'll have to check it out. Claudio Rogajon says, the music in Gladiator 2 was forgettable as well. Yes, I always forget to mention that when I'm complaining and talking shit about Gladiator 2. The music and the score was the most underwhelming, generic shit I've ever heard. It sounded like when you go to YouTube Studio and you download the free royalty-free music after you type in epic score. It sounded like that's what they were using. Like, this movie sorely missed Hans Zimmer being the composer, because go back and watch Gladiator, the 2000 version. That music elevates that entire film. Every scene is elevated by Hans Zimmer's score. That is the emotional vibe that movie needed. And if it didn't have it, it might not be considered like a great masterpiece, or at least that's how I consider it. But the score in the new Gladiator, I think it really fit everything else, though. Like, generic, cliche, watered down, you've been here, you've done this. It just felt like a copy of a copy of a copy. And the score perfectly encapsulates what it deserved. Like, this mediocre thing that added nothing. You felt nothing. We are complaining about Gladiator 2 tonight. Welcome to the live show. All right. Mike Silver says, John, speaking of animated characters in live action films, what do you think about Roger Rabbit and Cool World? Some crazy disturbing shit in those. Roger Rabbit is a classic. Jessica Rabbit, I still stand by it. Put him in the dip. Cool World, I vaguely remember that movie. That was that Russell Crowe? I vaguely remember, or am I thinking of the Denzel Washington movie? No, Russell Crowe was in Cool World, right? If he wasn't, then that was a dream, a fever dream I had. I vaguely remember that movie. I'm sorry. But I love me some Roger Rabbit. And yes, the adult themes were very welcomed. That's what I miss in comedy movies or children's movies. Oh, Brad Pitt, yes. Yeah, Brad Pitt was in that movie. For some reason, I could envision Russell Crowe in it, though. All right, the next one comes from... Let's see. The White Skull says, what would you do if there was no Christmas? I do look forward to the Christmas holiday. I like the lights and the ambiance. Maybe not as much as I like Halloween. But if there was no Christmas, I don't know. What would we have to look forward to in the dead of winter? Other than our own misery. I don't know. So what would I do if there was no Christmas? Well, we wouldn't have a Jingle All the Way. And for that, I never want it to happen. The White Skull says, do you miss Bruce Willis acting? Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey, you have what you have, and I think that'll stand the test of time. Yeah, I was thinking about Virtuosity. For some reason, I was thinking about Virtuosity. But then I was also thinking about Monkey Bone. So, thoughts on Boardwalk Empire? I enjoyed it. I remember some of the seasons kind of dragged, and a lot of the stories sort of blend together now, but I remember liking the vibe of it on a Atlantic City boardwalk. I like the time period. And also when I watch shows like Boardwalk Empire, or I watch any show that takes place in the 1920s or 1930s, that time period in life, we would be fucked. Like just making food and going to get food was an event. Like you just didn't have a microwave. You couldn't just refrigerate everything and heat up a frozen pizza. Just eating pre-1950 would have been so hard. I don't know. And think about the lack of options. Like it's depressing. I'm truly glad I'm not alive in the early 1900s. I just feel like I would have been cold and hungry all the time. Claudia Rogajon says, favorite Christmas movie that's not Home Alone and not Jingle All the Way? Well, I mean, A Christmas Story is clearly an iconic classic. You got to throw it in there. I've never been a huge fan of Elf. I know everyone loves it. Not a huge fan. Can I pick Home Alone too? We'll talk about Christmas movies next month. But first, let's keep talking shit about Gladiator 2. All right, I'll answer a few more questions, guys, and then I'm going to wrap up this live show. So if you guys have any more questions, I'm here for a few more minutes. Get them out. Or give them to me. I'll take them right now. Black Christmas 1974, yes. I like to get my grandma in the room, and we watch Black Christmas 1974 together. Mike Silver says, Die Hard, yeah, but is it really a Christmas movie? I mean, I know it's cool to say, but I need a Christmas movie. I want them to open presents. That or blow shit up and fight off terrorists. I'm fine with that too. And by that logic, we have to include Batman Returns. Bad Santa of Billy Bob Thornton. Definitely one of the funnier Christmas movies of the recent 20 years. Which, it's not even 20 years. It's like 21 years now. That was 2003. Time flies. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up the live show there, but I do want to say thanks for the questions, thanks for the comments. Most importantly, just thanks for hanging out. It does mean a lot. And like I said, if you guys are YouTube members, I did put up a couple special videos, a room tour video of the Flick Cave, and a special in the theater review of Wicked, which you guys can see right now on this channel. If you guys are members, they're there right now. Don't miss them. And I'll try to make more member-only content. I have a few other ideas, but if there's anything you guys specifically want to see, please mention it in the future in the next live stream. As always, stay safe, have a good night. Hopefully I see you guys before Thanksgiving, but if not, happy Thanksgiving. Go eat some turkey and mashed potatoes for me, and extra cream corn. And by the way, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.